This is the Get Better Everyday podcast with Matt Gouget. Actionable advice from real life superheroes who, just like you, are in relentless pursuit of the best version of themselves. Whether you're just getting started or have been at it for years, my hope is that this podcast injects you with some positive energy to continue doing what brings you joy. Join me as I interview the best of the best in business, sports, and life. Let's grow together. All right, Matt Gouget, Get Better Everyday podcast. I've got my man, Joe Brikman, the modern day agent on the podcast today. We're going to jump into real estate, mortgage, entrepreneurship, getting better every day, all the things. If you find any value in this podcast, please consider subscribing, share it with a friend. Joe Brikman, thanks for being on, brother.
Yo, thanks for having me, man. Matt, the mortgage guy, huh?
Yes, sir.
I love it. Yeah, it's been really cool. They always say third time's the charm. We try to put it together a couple of times, and now that we're finally here, I'm loving the energy, loving just the whole story. You shared a little bit, with me, your background, things like that, and I love the whole idea here of the podcast. The whole podcast really is just about people who had started somewhere, that wanted to go somewhere, and ended up getting there. So that's awesome.
I mean, yeah, we're all on different paths and so many people, different things, right? Health, wealth, relationships, real estate, other number of things. People are trying to get better every day. One thing I'd love to dig out of you, I'll give you a minute or two to kind of introduce yourself and what you have going on is what you're doing as far as getting better every day, but not doing it in secret, right? You're recording videos every day. Here's what I've got going. I think that is the best teacher for people watching, and it's inspiring to me. It's inspiring to a lot of people. And I'd love to get some insight into like why you're doing it that way. But first, tell us like who you are, what you're up to, where you're located, and all that.
Totally, man. Yeah. So my name is Joe Brikman. I'm the modern day agent. I'm based out of Miami, Florida, South Florida here. I've been licensed for just about 2 years. So I had my 2-year anniversary last week. Here in the business, really exciting. The average real estate agent makes it through like a year and 3 months, and then kind of is like, hey, I'm not really sure this is for me. So, really, really excited that like this is actually for me, and this is something that I can echo with, and something that, we're really doing a great job at and helping a lot of people with. So, I built the entire idea of the modern day agent around this idea that, throughout COVID and throughout everything that was going on in the world, real estate was one of those things that everybody just kind of went crazy for. And, in order to sell a house or even sell a mortgage, in the last 24 months, there are a lot of people who can make the case and say, look, like, on the one hand, yeah, you did a lot of production, but on the other hand, like, shit was handed to you on a silver platter, like literally all you have to do is go and say hi to people. And you know what, that might be true to a certain extent. I mean, I definitely was a lot more available than other people. I was better than most of the other agents out there, which kind of made it very simple, to choose me. But at the same time, I'm actually, every person who mentions that, especially now that, I'm at 64 million in closed and pending sales, literally in the last 24 months, I'm looking at the people who are or were, saying all those things. And I'm like, hey, where are they at? And they're the bartender at the local bar, and they're the banker at the bank, and they're the supermarket person. They're not really the real estate people anymore. And, by seeing the way that where all that is going and really having a good understanding as to where the numbers are showing us, I don't necessarily have the highest form of high school education. Up until maybe about 2 years ago, right before I got my real estate license, I didn't even have an equivalent. And, I never did any of that. But one of the things that I had learned, was how to look at trends and how to look at statistics and how to look at graphs, and kind of understand where things are going. So I might not necessarily be, the smartest person in the room, but at the same time, I'm the guy who's got my shit together. And that's really what we're pushing here at the modern day agent and at the modern day agent, as an organization, as an education company, and then at the modern day team, which is the real estate team that I just started, is this idea of thinking out of the box to where we're not just necessarily, thinking about everything in terms of, hey, like, how am I going to go make money? How am I going to go do this? Am I going to go do that? But really more like, hey, how can I help people? How can I be a value add to the marketplace? How can I do things in order to help other people, get better and grow? And how can I share my journey? And it was kind of cool that you had mentioned that a lot of what I'm doing, is social media, and a lot of where people see me, the avenue is social media. And it's very true, because honestly, 90% of real estate agents, you take the word real estate out and you put the word secret instead of it. And they're literally tell that they're, selling real estate or buying real estate, but then all of a sudden, when one of their friends or family don't, when one of their friends or family don't actually, like use them to buy or to sell or whatever, they get all offended and they get all annoyed and they're like, oh my God, they should have used me. And my response, whenever somebody turns around and says, look, I'm working with a real estate agent, is I go, okay, great. Well, then why aren't they here? Like if you're working with somebody, they should be here working for you. And, in the beginning, it felt kind of sleazy asking that question because it's like, oh, like you're guaranteed asking, a question like that. Like there are people who are listening to this podcast right now that they're going to use this and they're going to pick a client, right? And on the one hand, it felt kind of grimy, but on the other hand, it was like, nah, dude, like I actually believe in the idea of providing a higher level of service for other people than I would expect in terms of like standards for myself, right? So with that, and I'm sure you can relate to that as someone who's gone through the whole sobriety, journey, and someone who's gone through the whole addiction journey where, there are a lot of times where you would place yourself in front of other people and you were very focused on, I was very focused on me and just focused on how I can grow and how I can, do things. And I realized that I'm only going to be able to grow to a certain level. I mean, obviously I believe in my capabilities and stuff, but like I also, contrary to what it looks like on social media, like I actually want to have a little bit more of a relaxed life. Like if I can wake up in the morning and just take a deep breath and not be bombarded with phone calls the second it turns 8 o'clock. I mean, it would be cool for a day. And yes, today, in today's day and age, I can actually just turn my call on to call forwarding and, flip all of my calls straight over to my fulfillment center in Guatemala. I can do that. But at the same time, right now, giving the fact that, I am committed to this level of excellence and this level of professionalism that many, many agents didn't even practice or train or work on throughout building themselves up in their career. Now, a lot of the people, when they'll be going back to them, and begging them to relist their house, the other people are going to choose people like me, people who've been around for the last 2 years and spent a lot of money and spent a lot of time on marketing and client attraction and really just focusing on how can I add more value to the people around me, because I believe that every single person is their own world and every single person was created in the image of God. And because they were created in that image, although I'm not religious, right, I am, and I do really tap into a lot of the spiritual realms of a lot of different things in order just I'm a very big believer in energy and karma and all those things, as I do believe that most people are. And when you think about it from that angle, right, it's like, how am I pushing myself to fix another world? How am I pushing myself to share this whole world that I have right here, that once upon a time was in pieces, that I sat and I built together? If I am able to do that, right, and I'm just like LeBron James, for a long time before everything kind of blew over with him, he was one of those people that I really idolized, as I'm sure a lot of kids were at that time, going back 7-8 years ago. And he really like kind of had this thing where he was always pushing himself to like that next level. And whenever someone went and someone said, oh my God, dude, you're amazing, he would go, I'm just a kid from Akron. Like, I'm just a kid, and that perspective, before it was used for bigotry, was one of those things that to me was extremely, extremely like revealing, and it was just revelational to me, where you were able to see a guy who literally has everything he, his wife, and his kids want, or seemingly, but in his head he's always holding himself as, I'm just a kid from Akron, which Akron at the time that he grew up was the ghetto, and it was the projects, and that was the way that he's keeping himself. And when you keep hearing that again and again and again and again and again, there's two things that can happen. One thing that can happen is that it motivates you, and it pushes you. Because if I'm just the kid from Brooklyn, New York, who grew up in this religious community, and when I walked out of the religious community, they thought they'd find me under a bridge somewhere, and not, I mean, I was under a bridge for a while, but not doing the shit that they thought I was doing. And then, I was homeless for a little bit, dug all out of that. I was struggling with alcohol just because I was, from when I was 16 already, it was readily available in these religious schools, as a form of, connection to a higher realm. I don't know why, but that's kind of how it was pushed, and it's still pushed like that in these communities these days. So, that was one of those things that I had really struggled with. And in that come up process, of really trying to push myself to get to where I was going, I kept having to remind myself, I'm just that kid from New York. I'm just the guy who's trying to do something. Why am I trying to do something? In order to be able to be a resource to somebody else, in order to be able to help somebody else, in order to be able to contribute all of what's in here to other people. Because until you download everything that's in your brain and share it with other people, I don't believe you've fulfilled your purpose in the world. Because every single person's got that computer in between both of their ears. And there's no reason why your computer should be aligned with someone else's in terms of exact thoughts, exact thought processing, exact critical thinking. Everybody is different. Everybody has their way of perceiving things. So why don't you try to focus on really just lighting up those receptors of people of positivity, of lighting up those receptors of people of, holy shit, this guy is going to help me, even though my credit score is only a 650. Which you and I both know right now, every single mortgage broker would jump at a deal like that. 650, oh my God, $40,000 a year income. Oh my God, let's take it. Just barely meets the qualifications, but they'll take it because that's where they are right now. And I think that, and I know that you had asked, really kind of what builds into that modern day agent, but that's really what it is. It's meeting the market with a preparedness and a steadfastness of understanding that no matter where the market goes, I don't really care because I'm the one who's pushing my market. I'm the one who's pushing my bottom line. And since I'm pushing my market and my bottom line, and I'm forcing myself to continue leveling up every day, I feel like it's my responsibility to share my success with other people, because the first thing that people do whenever they hear what time I wake up in the morning or what my morning routine looks like, or, the fact that it's 7:30 p.m. Eastern time and I'm sitting here recording a podcast with you, people would look at things like that, and people would kind of be like, hey, like that's eccentric, like that's obsessive, like that's not healthy. And you know what? Okay, but at least I'll have money to be able to pay to fix my health. At least I'll be able to take care of my family in the future. At least I'll be able to do the things that, when I'm 45, 50 years old, I'll be able to just, really appreciate the time with my family. And obviously I'll still be working because I'm a workaholic. Like, yeah, I know that. I'm addicted to serving people, but I won't be doing that and counting a commission. I'm not doing that even now and counting a commission. I think that's one of those things that really sets the modern day agent and the modern day team apart from everything and anyone else here in this area, is that my first question is not, how much do you want to sell for and what are you offering me for commission? My first question is, hey, well, I know that there's the triple D's, and the double D's as to why I just said that on a podcast, that why that why people move, and it's diamonds, diapers, and divorce. So these are the three reasons why people move. So if someone's calling me and telling me, hey, Joe, I want to list my house, I want to find out why they're doing that. Hey, are there any diamonds involved? You getting married? Are you upsizing? Are you getting divorced? Are you downsizing? Because I'm always trying to find that next opportunity to help somebody. See, most people are looking for opportunity. I'm looking for opportunity to help people.
I love it, man. I love it, dude. There's a lot of stuff. I tried to take some notes because I want to dig some gold out of there. I want to be able to extract some of this value for listeners. One thing I heard, which I think is important for people, is, you mentioned not the smartest dude in the room, right? You don't have a master's degree, but you also talked about focus. And I think that people, no matter what your passion is, no matter what you're going after, you can go from 0 to 64 million in real estate sales by being focused. And you use the word obsession, right? Some people call it obsession. Some people call it focus. Some people call it passion. I can tell from your energy that you're all in on serving people and getting better. So I'd love to maybe rewind it and talk about some of the things that have allowed you this massive growth in real estate. Because I just read a stat, dude, that is mind-blowing. In 2020, 80% of agents have not closed a deal. And I believe that stat. I believe that, right? that the average agent, I've seen a bunch of different stats on like deals per year, and it might be 6 or it might be 8. Like I saw a stat that said 12, and I don't think that one's accurate, but like nobody's doing the type of production that you're doing in their first 2 years. And so what was it that allowed you to have, as much focus and passion poured into one thing and see that hyper growth?
That's a very good question. A lot of times people ask me, questions as to like, what does it take to sell? What does it take to do? What does your daily day look like? And, the honest truth and answer to that question is that you need to really get hyper focused. You really need to give yourself the opportunity to let go of what other people will feel and think about you, and to really just embrace the fact that you are literally steps away from building and creating your future. And every step that you're taking, there are going to be people who have given up, and there are going to be people who have sat down, and there are going to be people who have literally every single reason as to why shit's not working out. In the army, one of the things, I served in the paratroopers in the IDF in Israel for just under 2 years, right before COVID hit. I had just signed another 3 years after that, and honestly, like, it was a godsend that I was able to get out when I did, and kind of trade the 3 years that I had left for a whole bunch of time in the reserves. But at the same time, like, in the army, there was one rule: whenever we were out on a ruck, right, which we would do those once a week, and we started off at 4 kilometers, and then we went to 8, then we went to 16, and in order to complete and actually get the red beret, we had to do 67, right? So it's like 30 something miles in 13 hours. We were timed, like we had to keep a certain pace, which was 6 kilometers an hour is what we had to be moving as a group. And the rule, every 3 hours we would take like a break. We wouldn't have to keep formation. We'd still be quiet, and we'd be able to go and refill canteens and get like snacks or whatever they had there. Like the little peanut butter pretzels that came one in a package, and it's like teasing you. You got 3 of them. And the one rule was you're not allowed to sit down. You're not allowed to take your ruck off the entire time, and you're not allowed to sit down. And someone like me who was almost 80 pounds heavier when I had first started the army than what I am today. I was like literally like between 270 and 280. Like I'm big, and the rule in the army was, especially in training, you'd be carrying anywhere from 70 to 85% of your body weight. It literally depended on whether your commander's girlfriend woke up this morning and liked him or did not like him, and video chatted him or did not video chat him, because we're dealing with a whole bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds who are filling this capacity of it's a compulsory draft in Israel if you're a citizen. So it's one of those things that you're dealing with all these kids. I was 21 when I joined the army. Like, I had a successful company in Texas. Like, I was in the army, honestly, in the beginning, I wasn't even sure what the fuck I was doing there. But then I realized that I needed to really dig deep in order to challenge my psyche to be able to come out of this, because I learned this trick when I had first told somebody that I was preparing. So there were 2 people that met me, and this will answer the question. 2 types of people met me when I was joining the army. The first person was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing, dude. Like, you're gonna be great." And then there was that other guy who was like, "Bro, you joining the army, what you gonna do? You gonna eat? You eat all the leftovers? Like, what's your job exactly?" And then I'd be like, "No, like, I actually, I'm really good with languages. I speak 6 languages, and I wanted to get more involved into the investigative part of it. I had always wanted to play a part in counterterrorism, and I had always wanted to play a part in, my grandfather is a full bird colonel, retired, and he had spent 44 years of his life in the army. I was born on his 50th birthday, so to me, I always felt like I had something to carry, and I realized that this is really what had set him apart, and why I was so attracted to this idea of the army. A lot of people, there's a lot of people who do the cosplay and that type of stuff, with the army, that are very into it. And those people sit down during their rucks, and those people, throw their guns and their belts and their equipment and their stuff. And in the army, if you threw any of your equipment, it was an automatic, strike. It was an automatic problem. If your vest wasn't perfectly straight when you took it off, no matter your combat vest, no matter whether you had plates in it, no matter what you had, it had to be perfectly straight on its box. And if it wasn't there, you were doing push-ups, especially in like boot camp. And boot camp will push you like crazy. But when it comes to being able to stay focused on a task, we live in a society that in today's day and age, you can accomplish 5 years of work in 12 months if you just stay focused. And if you don't believe me, look at me.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree, man. And that's the thing too, is like, you've got somebody who's in real estate for a decade or 2 decades, and we could, extrapolate that on any business, right? And they accomplish this much, right? And then somebody new comes along and they says, I'm going to work harder, faster, stronger, with more intention, with more focus, and they accomplish 10x within 1/10 of the time frame. So that's awesome, man. You got into a lot of stuff, which is going to lead into my next question. And it's my favorite question to ask people, because like, you've accomplished a lot. One of my favorite all-time sayings is people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year or two, and they underestimate what they can accomplish in a decade. And so I take that question to then ask my guests, like, who was Joe Brikman circa 1 decade ago? Like, where were you a decade ago? And, we know the success and all the cool stuff you're doing nowadays, but it didn't just fall into your lap, right? There's hard work, and there's, all the focus and all the different things you learned in the Army. So, where were you a decade ago, brother?
Bro, that's a great question, man. Where was I 10 years ago? Well, 10 years ago, I was 16 years old. I was stuck in the circles that I had grown up in. So I grew up as like a super Hasidic religious Jew, in Brooklyn, New York, the home of all the Hasidic people, the factory, if you know.
Huh.
And with that, I don't know what type of people you get up there, but we were very tight. Like where I grew up is still a very tight, insulated community. 16 when I was 16, my dad was already 3 years into battling cancer. I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and six kids. What did I just say? That I got 5 younger siblings, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids.
Yeah.
I've said it like 4 times today. But with trying to deal with the trauma of sexual abuse, from the ages of 8, 9, and then finding the courage to be able to talk about that when I was on my way to 13, because Jewish people, there's like a bar mitzvah, right? It's like a 13-year-old dude becoming a man, whatever that meant. And with that, there's a party that happens, and I was kind of riffling through the invitations, and I saw my abuser's name on it, and I basically took the invitation, I threw it at my dad, and I was like, look, it's either her or me. Like, I'm not coming to my party if she's going to be there. And I just threw it back at him, and I ran downstairs to my room, and I locked the door, and I just started losing my shit. And like my body was just like, I was just mess. And my father was like trying to figure out what was going on. Like my dad had no idea what was going on. My mom had no idea what was going on. And my parents, I believe, did everything that they were physically able to do as the parents that were brought up in the same background that I was brought up in, to be the best parents. There wasn't any of 25 years ago, there wasn't any of that, parenting stuff and participation trophies and birthing classes and how to raise your kid in a TikTok age or all that shit. Like none of that stuff existed, right? So parents would literally talk to other parents and discuss their kids and get advice from what other people has done that's worked, like the old school way. And being in an insulated community, obviously you're going to get insulated advice, right? And that's basically what had happened. So I started rebelling when I was about 14. Jewish people are supposed to pray every day, wrap like the straps and stuff. And they're called phylacteries. You can Google them. Don't ask me to spell it. I don't know how to spell it. And it's a prayer. It's like prayer boxes that you basically strap to your arm and to your head to remind yourself that Jewish people are always connected and centered with God. You want to align your head and your heart with God. And honestly, like it was a really cool ritual in the beginning, but like 14 years old, kind of flashbacks, and my dad's got like this cancer shit going on, and like they're in and out of hospitals, and I'm the only one at home, and I'm scared to stay at home because like there's certain places that she did things to me in my house, and like all that shit. It just like when I was 14, I was shipped out to a boarding school because I couldn't stay at home. It just wasn't working. And then my parents will never admit that, but that's just how it was. I'll say it. And then from there, you know, I just started that bouncing from boarding school to boarding school. So, you know, I had got accepted to this, you know, very high renowned school. And, you know, I actually had finished the entire like Jewish Talmud. And, you know, they're written like in those big books, there's 28 of them. And a lot of them are consolidated. Like you're talking big books, like I knew all that shit by heart. Like I had finished all of it. I memorized it. I knew it by heart. The whole Torah, you know, in Hebrew, like I knew all that shit by heart. And it sounds kind of crazy to say all that shit by heart right after I say things like that. But hey, you know, that's
You're you, man. You're you,
oh,
brother.
yeah. Listen, just in case, you know, you're gonna have that one person who like finds me on one thing. Just guys, we acknowledge it and we don't give a fuck. So, you know, that's kind of where all of the rebelliousness started. And my brain, you know, what happens is when you're there's this thing called the fight or flight mode, right? And most people, when they think of fight or flight, they know it as, okay, well, either I'm going to freeze and I'm going to you know, figure it out and I'm going to fight, or I'm going to run. But they don't realize is that there's a third word that comes after that, and that word is thrive. That word is you know, grow, make the most of the situation that you have. But most people don't talk about that because that wouldn't be fun to talk about, and it wouldn't have you, you know, back in your therapist's chair every day, you know, talking about it, because those are the actual tools as to how to grow, you know. And before anybody hits on me for, you know, talking about therapy, like I've spent over $250,000, $250,000 on therapy from the ages of 14 to 22. So I had spent like a shitload of money on therapy. I would say maybe even a good 50-60% of all of the money that I had made was going to therapy, you know, high intensity EMDR, and, you know, just eye movement rapid desensitization. It's a way that people deal with, you know, trauma. It was originally you know, brought back after the Vietnam War. This was one of those ways that they helped, you know, veterans delete certain memories and flashbacks in their head. And I was literally controlled by demons. And I was, I couldn't go anywhere in the dark. I couldn't be there by myself. You know, there's this Jewish ritual of dunking into like a spiritual bath in the morning. And, you know, super Hasidic people do that like every single day. You know, it just didn't work. And it was, you know, imagine like, you know, like, and so in the army, it's totally normal, right? You got 50 dudes showering. I mean, everyone's a man, everyone's kind of like, you know, we're all brothers. You know, but when you're in like this school and you're like 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and you're like, okay, like I'm gonna get naked in front of a whole bunch of other people who are all like, also like me, trying to figure out their shit, you know, like what it's just, it gave me some crazy feelings. You know, that honestly I didn't even know what to do. Like I was just so overwhelmed with the fear and the paralyzation and everything like that. And, you know, it didn't help that there were gay kids in school. Like I don't have anything against gay people, but it was one of those things. And I have friends who, you know, are gay, and I totally respect them. But, you know, when you're dealing with trauma and you're dealing with something that, you know, somebody can't be like, you know, on the same level as you, especially when you're 13, 14 years old, like it just, to me, it fried me. I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with friends. I was repulsed by the whole idea of being in an all male environment, because I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. You know, and like my whole pornography addiction really started when I was like 11, because I had bought, you know, a cell phone. We call it illegally because, you know, when you're 11 years old, going back 13, 14 years ago, especially in like this insulated community, you weren't allowed to have connections to the internet. You know, there were these big multi-million-dollar protests that they would do about the internet as if that was going to change something, you know. And like I never would have met you or built any of my business on the internet, right? And like with that, I was like, okay, this is not going to work. Like I gotta go. So from the ages of 16 to 18, I really was like trying to pick up as many life skills as possible. So, you know, YouTube was like starting to become a thing. It was like that funny little, remember that funny little TV icon?
Yeah.
Like that was my university, you know, and people were getting comfortable with the idea of putting out videos. And, you know, you had this one guy, Eric Thomas, right, who would put out like all of these videos literally from the day that putting out videos was a thing.
E.T., the hip hop preacher. I love that guy.
He's dope. You know, I met the guy and I was so stunned I didn't even take a picture. Like, you know, like that guy, like he knows my soul, you know. And or whatever's left of it anyways.
Mm.
And, you know, with that, like I started watching these videos, I started learning more about other religions, learning more about other experiences, about, you know, I like the movie Bad Boys 2 for me was the reason I moved to Miami. You know, 'cause I was in Montreal at the time, in Canada, and like that's where I was going to school, and I was in this rabbinical college of Canada, which essentially was going to teach me how to become a rabbi. I banged out their entire 12-month curriculum in 3 months. I was ready to get tested on all the material. I was ready to get tested on all of the pieces and everything, ready to go. And I passed and I finished the exam. And, you know, I then had decided now that I had finished the exam, I was going to get like a fancy certificate in Hebrew that wasn't going to bring me anywhere in terms of college or advancement in life or actual applicable knowledge. And I was going to, you know, now give that diploma, mail it to my dad, and then I was going to move on with my life. You know, the problem was that I trimmed my beard, right? And religious Hasidic people, you'll probably in Sacramento, there's a couple here and there, there's Jewish communities, but you go to LA, you know, you go more to like areas that there are insulated Jewish communities, and you'll see how, you know, lots of the Hasidic people, they don't touch their beard, they won't even comb it, they won't straighten it, because they believe that this is that the beard is the channel to the 13 attributes of mercy. You know, which gets very mystic and Kabbalistic and all that stuff, and we can have a whole nother class on that. But you know, when it got to a point of like, okay, like you are not going to give me something that I earned because I decided that I want to look a little better and that I want to prepare myself for my next life. You know, like mind you, I was 255 pounds at that point. Like I was a big dude who had zero confidence in his life, and honestly, food was the way that I escaped. You know, like that's kind of where I went. And you know, the addictive personality in me, you know, I feel like most people who've been through trauma, they have a very addictive personality. They'll attach to anything very quickly, which is why we have so many addicts on the streets, because we don't have anything else to give our endorphin receptors, and we don't have anything else to really justify our existence or what we're doing. So it's like, well, fuck it, I want to go do this, and I'm going to prove to myself that I'm in control of my life by going to smoking a joint and going to buying some alcohol and going and popping a couple of pills and just chilling, you know. The reality is that it's not the way it is, right? And the thing is that sometimes when you're so stuck in the circle, like I was, you know, I was 18 years old, it's flash forward 3 years, or 2 years, like I said, I don't have a high school diploma. You know, you move along a little bit, and you know, I had booked this trip back to Miami literally because of Will Smith. Like it's all his fault. You know, I watched the movie Bad Boys 2, and I was like, fuck, man, they got nice cars in Miami, they got nice women in Miami, they got all these types of cool things you can check out for different experiences in Miami. You know, I gotta get there. And I remembered coming to Miami with my family, you know, as part of like the Jewish holidays. We'd come here to visit because the Jewish holidays are normally 7 or 8 days. You know, and there's like a little bit of break time in the middle, but like 2 or 3 of these days, we're literally not like, you know, communicating with people on the phone or you know, traveling or anything like that. It's literally like a holiday dedicated to God. So we'd come here and travel and be in Florida for those holidays. And I remembered coming to Florida, and I remembered having a great time. And I also remembered Will Smith in the back of my head and the movie Bad Boys 2. And I was like, all right, well, let's go get this shit, right? And I showed up here, and I actually had booked. So Airbnb had just started becoming a thing. And I had booked a it wasn't really an Airbnb, like they didn't have the website or anything like that, but it was like an Airbnb style, you know, rental, short-term rental, you know, for 11 days. And I figured, you know what, I'll be around for a while, and then I'll figure out my shit, right? I'll go get a job, and I'll go get some women, I'll go get a nice car. It'll be great. And I'll be able to tell everybody where I came from to go fuck themselves because I have the best life, right? Long story short, the world told me to go fuck myself, and the address that I had shown up to was a construction site. And I was like, wait, the photo is for the hotel next door. So I walked into the hotel next door and I said, hi, I have a reservation. And they said, okay, what's your name? And I gave them my name. And I didn't even have like a driver's license or an ID. I literally all I had was a passport. They wouldn't take the passport for ID. They wanted another ID together to go with it, which is kind of normal. And then on top of that, they were like, okay, well, you don't have a reservation here. That's first of all. And second of all, if you want to stay here, it's $330 a night. And I'm like, holy fuck, $330 a night. Like I went and I booked this Airbnb for $80 a night. And they were like, sir, there's no way you did that because Airbnbs here are $500 a night at the minimum. And I'm like, what? And they were like, yeah. And she's like, can I see your phone? And that's when I had first realized, that the people will get you if you let them. And, that was basically the whole credit card limit that I had. So, I'm sitting here, I'm 18 years old. I had just gotten back from like China, 2 months before I had left the school. I was sick for a week. I wasn't actually sick. I was in China. And the reason why I was in China, at barely 18 years old, was because, my dad would travel to China a lot as a kid. And, traveling to a different country that it focuses on manufacturing and import is something that I guess I learned was important, creating relationships with people and things like that from my dad. And, when I had gone to China, I actually had found some molds that were left over from pipe dream. Which I mean, I really hate to be bringing this up on your podcast, especially when we're talking about sobriety and shit. But like this is a really, really big sex toy company, right? And this company, like they had just left their molds and not paid the vendors. So for $500, I was the proud owner of 19 new molds that all were in different shapes and sizes of different types of appendages and genitalia. And it sounds kind of fucked up, but like my little head was looking as like, okay, well, I can buy these for, $2 landed or 90 cents landed, and I can resell them for $49.95 and $89.95. Like, why the fuck aren't more people doing this? And then I came into a plus size women's bras lot, of like 100,000 pieces that I was able to buy each one for $1. But because they were so big, only a specific type of person would buy them. And those people don't normally go to the stores. And when they buy them, because they break so often, they would buy 10 or 15 of them at a shot. So I figured, hey, let me post these on eBay. And I'll say that if you want to buy 10, message me and I'll give you 10% off. So they were $99.95, right? Because Victoria's Secret had, 4D, bras at $189 for their most highest end stuff. And I had 5 different colors. And I was like, bright, neon, all those types of colors. And I was like, look, like you can buy one for $100 or you can buy a whole bunch and I'll just save you a little bit of money. Right. And that was like straight up in the listing. And obviously eBay had, ended up even then they had policies against that. And, they banned me from the platform. So I was stuck with something like another 50,000 of these pieces. I had money locked up with eBay and I got into the Amazon business. So that was kind of like the process is, me coming from homelessness, to alcohol, to back to the streets, to then realizing, okay, I got to figure out my shit, and then promising myself that I wouldn't smoke until I made, money. That was kind of like my goal. So I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to figure this stuff out, right? And all through that process, it was just one thing after the next that, the mindset that I had. You ever heard that parable of the bird? The bird, birds grow up in a nest and they're in a busy city. And the mom every day she leaves for a couple of minutes to go pick up, all of the food for the birds. And they all open their mouths and she places the food inside their mouth. And that's it as they grow, right? And then at a certain point in time, the mama bird, kind of nudges the other bird and says, hello, you gotta test your wings. Like you gotta start getting ready to fly. So she flies and the bird flies all around town. And the bird really didn't enjoy the flight. First of all, like it smelled everywhere and it was gross. And every time she took a deep breath, it was inhaling the shit and, it just smelled so bad. And on top of that, like this bird was starting to realize, hey, like there are worms on the floor, like I have to go and grab one of those. Like that's not fun. And the bird came back to the little nest and came back and landed. And the mom goes, no, so how'd you like the flight? And the bird goes, why would I want to leave here? Everywhere smells. It's gross. It's disgusting. Plus, I have to go hunt my own food. And the mama bird looks at the bird, the baby bird, and kind of like licks her nose, both sides, and says, go fly again, right? And the bird goes and flies again, and oh my God, this place is so amazing. These smells are are great, and the street vendors and the street fair, and if they like, I fly a drone, so I always think of birds flying like this, and and they're like seeing all these views, and it's amazing, it smells great, and she comes flying back and she goes, Mom, I'm out. Like, it's been great knowing you, and I'll come back and visit you sometime, but like this world is amazing. And the mama bird looks at the baby bird and goes, listen, just do me one favor, always remember to wipe the shit off your nose. and that's really like this, if you're traveling around with some shit on your nose, then everywhere you go, it's going to smell, and it's going to be bad, and it's going to be shitty. But you know what? Don't be like an onion, bro. Don't fucking cut open the onion and then ask why you're crying.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to give yourself and you're going to put yourself in a position and an opportunity to fuck up, you're going to fuck up. Like, that's just how it is. That's why, one of the big things in acknowledging, and I've never really been through like a sober rehab facility or program or anything. Like, this is completely me. And honestly, like, now at where I'm at, it's just, it doesn't make sense. So, one of the things that I taught myself to do was, not that, but more, and just to smell everything nicely, not sniff anything, right? But smell everything and just make sure that my nostrils are clean. And then you take a deep breath. Why do you take a deep breath through your nostrils? Because your nostrils have these little receptacles inside of them that filter out all of the bad bacteria in the air.
Yeah.
Even in cold, nice places where, up where you're at, you get those nice cold mornings.
Yeah.
And even over there, like, you got to breathe in through your nose. Otherwise, you feel all tightened up. And it's literally that. You got to have that filter. And when you have that filter that screens and only certain things come through, how are you not going to take off? How are you not going to achieve your goals? How are you not going to get there? And if you're not getting there, it's not because, and you're claiming to do all the things, it's not because the things don't work. It's because you're bullshitting yourself.
Yeah. I think what you did, man, is you brought it full circle. And I wanted to, like, point out to folks, because I think this will help folks, that, first off, I don't know, what abuse is like, but it's terrible. And I'm sorry for that, stuff you've been through, but I love that you don't use that as an excuse to not go out and succeed.
I did for a very long time.
Right. Right. But like, to your point, like, you wiped the shit off your nose and you said, now I'm going to go out, I'm going to smell some of these beautiful smells. I'm going to go out and succeed in spite of the things that's happened. Because I'm telling you, dude, I have talked to billionaires, 100 millionaires, and plenty of people that have done bigger stuff than me. And I'm a smaller version of somebody who, like, was dead in my driveway. And then a decade later, massive success, great family, great kiddos, great friends, great business, and all these things. And people see it. And I think that, like, I want it to inspire folks who have shit on their nose. I want people who are listening to this that have shit on their nose to say, despite Joe, being abused as a child, despite Matt, making some bad decisions, despite everybody who's had any level of success having bumps in the road and roadblocks and whatnot, like, you can choose to succeed. You can choose to wipe the shit off of your nose. And I love that analogy, dude. Like, I'm forever going to use that now. So I appreciate it, dude, because like, I believe wholeheartedly, because I've been around a lot of really successful people, that all of those experiences helped mold you into the indestructible force that you are today. The modern day agent, the energy, the way you go out and serve people and truly want to help people from the bottom, like, that was molded from experience, good and bad. And so I don't want anybody who's currently in a bad situation or has been through bad stuff to let that, regardless of age, sex, color, demographic, any of that stuff, like, that cannot limit you, because to a certain extent, we've all got a little shit on our nose, right? Let's wipe the shit off our nose. Let's go out there and let's get better every day, and let's dominate. I think that's a great place to end it. If you have anything to add, we'll share, like, links in the comments to all your social stuff. I'll let you drive anything else home that you want to add to that. But I think that was a perfect kind of full circle moment where we can end it.
100%. You know, and my favorite thing with circles is, I don't know if you've ever looked at a pie of pizza, but you can cut it 8 ways, and you know, it still end up with something. And guys, like Matt is straight on point when it comes to bringing in that full circle. Like, you are the one who is in complete control of everything that you do. You know, one of my things when you know, I was full scale into like just meditations and affirmations and all that stuff, you know, it was like, I am responsible for my success, and I am the reason for my success, and my, you know, work you know, is going to bring my success. And then afterwards, you know, now listen, I'm not like religious, okay, but at the same time, I believe in a higher power, and I believe that, you know, the energy that you put out is the energy that you're going to put in, and you're going to be able to pull out. And you know, to me, I shifted a lot of my perspective to, you know, God's given me the opportunity to get out there and do something, right? Like, you know, put all of the differences aside, like whatever it is that you subscribe to, okay, how about that? Whatever you subscribe to, that is giving you the opportunity to get out there and to wake up every morning and to go out and to inspire people and to touch people and to grow your business and to help your family future. And you need to grab that bull by the horns, because if you don't grab that bull by the horns, that bull is going to try to, you know, peg you, and it's going to try to hit you. And you got to hold that bull strong until you literally feel like you're not going to be able to move. And when you feel like you're about to give up, that's when you scream for help. And you know, my thing in real estate right now is, so many people are reaching out to me and they're like, Joe, like, I've been trying this for a while. Like, I've been doing this for 7 years. I've been doing this for 10 years, you know? And last year it was a very big thing that when I would call an agent and they would see my license number, you know, they'd be like, hey, you're brand new in this business. I've been doing this for 25 years. And in the beginning, it would really, really bother me. Like, fuck, like, is this what it's going to be? Like, I got to get experience first before people will take me seriously. And then at a certain point, you know, this lady was so nasty that I asked her, I said, let me ask you a question. If you've been in this business for 25 years, why are you still in sales? And why are you still doing rentals? You know, like, you should probably be running a team, teaching other people how to apply the love and passion and care that you have that made your success. You should be running those people. Right. And obviously she didn't have a team, and obviously she didn't have those people. And obviously if she tipped over and would leave, you know, the real estate space tomorrow, probably wouldn't bother that many people, especially not her clients, because I guarantee you there's no way that she was following up with her clients with an attitude like that. Like, you need to come to me. And just to kind of bring this home and wrap it up and let it go with, you know, where we were saying all the way in the beginning is that, you know, if you're going to expect that you're just going to put something out there and you're not going to consistently do it, and that people are going to call you when it's time to buy or sell a house, what have you done to earn their trust? Like, what have you done to actually show them that you can actually sell a house more than just passing a real estate exam, which most people know all you need in order to pass a real estate exam, and this is probably going to make a lot of mortgage brokers listening to this really, really happy, is a pulse and a brain. And you don't need anything else, and you can go and get your real estate license.
That brain part might be optional. Sorry, realtors. But I think, you know, to your point, like, it's not going to come to you. Anything in life, if you sit back and relax and hope for it to fall in your lap, it ain't coming, right? And in today's day and age, we're likely entering an economy where it's not getting easier, it's getting harder. It's not just real estate, it's not just mortgage, it's all industries. You know, if you want success in anything you do, you got to go out and get it. You got to get better every day, like my man Joe Brikman did. I appreciate the heck out of you, man. Thanks for joining, brother.
This was awesome, man. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And guys, if you are not involved yet with Matt's got a lot more going on than just mortgages. Okay. So like, hit him up, connect with him, because he's a super awesome dude. And honestly, throughout this interview, I've been asking myself why the fuck it's taken me 3 times to give it. Should have done this. Great to connect with you. Super excited. Looking forward to what we can do together, and keeping awesome, brother.
All right. Thanks, man.